thank you for being here. Can you hear me okay? Does it sound weird? It's okay? It's good? Can everybody see all right? If you guys want to move up, sit on the floor, whatever you want, get comfortable. I'm not weird or anything. I don't bite. Today I'm going to talk about understanding nutrition 101. Some of you might know some of this stuff. Some of you might not. I hope it raises a lot of questions because I love questions. So before anything, please find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Take a picture of this if you want. If you want to find me right now and tag me while I'm talking, like if I do something stupid, like, yo, Erik's an idiot, like I think he's smart, but by the way, I recently cut my hair. If you've seen me before, this is the shortest I've had my hair in years. It's a big deal to me. You guys don't care, but it's a big deal to me. So yeah, at Erik Bustillo. Again, feel free to tag me during the presentation. If I'm trending on Twitter, that would be pretty cool. And that's my email. You can reach me at my email. You can text that phone number or call it. I say text because I'm a millennial. And again, thank you for being here today. A little bit about myself. Product of Miami, I had to throw that in there. Born and raised in the county of Dade, 305 till I die. Represent always and forever. Before I continue, I want to say thank you to Suzette. She's sitting here. She helped me out with my presentation as well. So thank you so much. I graduated from FIU. Go Panthers. Today's a homecoming game. Beat Middle Tennessee. Dietetics and nutrition was my major. In order to become a registered dietitian, you have to go through coursework in dietetics and nutrition. Anyone can call themselves a nutritionist. I think it's important that everyone understands that. You don't have to be qualified in nutrition to say you're a nutritionist, right? So anyone can say, hey, I'm a nutritionist. I like to focus on health, dietetics, sport performance, and human optimization, right? That sounds like I'm trying to sell you something, but just optimizing your performance, your blood work. I always say, why be good when you could be great, right? Everyone agree with that? Yeah? Cool. Everyone awake? Yeah? Feeling good? Okay. If I get sweaty armpits, I'm sorry. It's because I'm a little bit hot. Just don't look over here. Registered and licensed dietitian. So in the parentheses, I put labs, pros, FIU. Like Mike mentioned, I like to look at blood work, right? I love data because like the old saying goes, you can't manage what you don't measure, right? So looking at blood work is important. Being able to either weigh yourself, even though we don't live and die by the scale, right? We don't live and die by the scale, right? Right, good. I've had the privilege of working with professional athletes like Frank Gore, product of Miami, Ricky Jean Francois, Jordan Reed, a few football players and triathletes, and you name it. It's fun working with athletes and even individuals like yourselves who I consider athletes too, that you're in here busting your butt on a regular basis. It takes work, dedication. I also worked with the FIU football team. I'm a certified sport nutritionist, personal trainer. I'm going to hurry up so I don't bore you talking about myself. I like speaking. If you don't know that, now you know. I do all those fun things, run, CrossFit, soccer, volleyball, etc. I like to talk about mental muscle when I work with like patients or clients because that's a muscle that we have to work out as well, right? Whether it's meditation or reading or just changing your mindset from being so negative to looking at things a little more positively, I think that that's important to understand as well, right? Nutrition is more than just what you're eating, but what you're feeding up here too. And that's a hashtag that I use. It stands for Make the World a Better Place. Use it, please, just because we want to make the world a better place. Now, this is where you guys come in, right? Cue the audience participation. What is nutrition? Feel free to shout it out. What does nutrition mean to you? Food, okay, good. Fuel, all right. Anything else? Food, fuel, okay. Especially rice, beans, and vaca frita. Sorry, vegans. So, nutrition versus diet. A couple of definitions up here. Nutrition, process of providing or obtaining the food necessary for health and growth. Food, nourishment, right? Like you guys said, food, fuel. It's a branch of science that deals with nutrients and nutrition. Very important that we understand that it's a science, right? Diet, kind of food an organism normally eats, right? A diet is just your regular way of eating. Unfortunately, diet now is thought of as a special course of food to which one restricts oneself to lose weight. You hear the word diet now, and what do you think? Eliminate carbs, keto, next 30 days I'm going to do whatever it is, right? It has an expiration date on it. Whatever we do shouldn't have an expiration date. It really should be a lifestyle. As cliche as that sounds, it has to be a lifestyle. Not just, I'm doing this for the wedding, the cruise, the bachelor, bachelorette, birthday, graduation, whatever lists we can potentially think of. You should kind of already be where you're at. But obviously, it takes work to get there. Oh, I guess it didn't show up on here. So this is supposed to say nutrition is a science, not a religion. Right? I think people get very religious about their nutritious beliefs. Okay? And again, not knocking religion or anything like that in no way, shape, or form. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody. But people get very religious about their nutrition because keto is the only way. Because this worked for me, it's going to be best for you. Right? You have to be vegan or you have to eat 200 grams of protein every day. We get so religious about it. It's a science. Let's never, ever forget that. So really quick, micronutrients, just a little brief touch up on this. They're essential for our body, right? So this is vitamins and minerals. Because we have macros or macronutrients, which I'm going to talk about after this, and we have micronutrients. Macros make up the big part, micros make up the much smaller picture. We need them in less amounts than we need actual macronutrients, so the grams of protein, fat, carbohydrate, a little bit different from what we're going to be getting as far as vitamins and minerals are concerned. And you can see down here, there's two types. We have vitamins and minerals. So if you look at vitamin A, D, E, and K, those are fat-soluble vitamins. And then you have your B vitamins, vitamin C, that those are water-soluble vitamins. Now, understanding calories. We always hear the term calories. This has X amount of calories, that amount of calories. Track your calories, don't track your calories. Calories count, calories don't count, calories in, calories out. So many calories, right? It's just a measurement of heat, right? It's a measurement of overall energy from what we're consuming. Now, if you see over here, it says bomb calorimeter. That is a tool that measures actual heat for what we're trying to measure. So that's how we get how many calories are in an actual food. So you get the broccoli, you put the broccoli in the bomb calorimeter, and it measures out the heat that it kind of gives off, right? Now, you can also measure in a bomb calorimeter a rock, right? Because if you eat a rock, it's got to have some kind of calories. I kind of want you to understand where I'm going with this. Calories are just calories, but they're a little bit more than that. They're more than just a number that we plug into an app, right? There is actual nutrition. I'm going to go into details about carb, protein, fat, and alcohol as well. Generally speaking, we know that 1 gram of a certain nutrient gives us X amount of calories. So like 1 gram of carbohydrate is going to give us 4 calories. The number might not be exactly, according to the bomb calorimeter, it might not be exactly 4. So maybe it's like 3.75 or something like that, but it gets rounded up to 4. The reason I say that is we're never going to get everything exact. And I think it's important that we understand that too. It's never going to be black and white. We're never going to get to our 2,179 calories every single day right on the number. Right? Everyone understand that? Everyone okay with that? So your macronutrients, also known as macros. I'm sure you guys all know, as Mike just spoke, someone tracking their macros. This is what they are looking at. Overall calories, carb, protein, and fat consumption. This is where IIFYM came from. IIFYM is if it fits your macros. An acronym became a diet, right? It's almost like IIFYM is, as long as the numbers fit, you can eat whatever you want. So it was kind of coined as like the Pop-Tart diet. It kind of made Pop-Tarts okay and cool. A macronutrient is a substance required in relatively large amounts by humans. So again, we need these in larger portions than we do micronutrients, the B vitamins and the vitamin Ds and all of that stuff. Again, on here I said they make up the big picture. So this is how we get the energy that we need throughout the day. And I hope you guys can read my funny little pictures over here. I tried to make it entertaining. So we have 4 classes of macros, right? Protein, build and repair muscle. Carbohydrates, give us energy, provide fuel. Fat, keep us satiated. Satiated means to stay feeling satisfied or feeling full. Provide fuel is the most calorie-dense macro, meaning fat yields the most calories with it, right? And I'll get into detail on that too. And then alcohol, I mean, because wine, right? So let's talk a little bit about carbohydrates. So the recommendation, according to the Institute of Medicine, or the IOM, is 45 to 65% of our diet should come from carbohydrates, right? Fun little fact here, carbs aren't really essential for human life. Like, we don't technically need to eat them. I'm not saying go and do this, but we can create energy from other food sources, from fat and from protein. So we don't technically need carbs, but they're delicious, right? So we know from what studies show that they're optimal for performance. If you're in here training, if you're doing some kind of endurance event, if you're doing CrossFit, if you're doing Orange Theory or running a half marathon, or whatever it might be, carbs are going to help as far as your performance goes. Now, I think that it's important to note that fiber is a carb, and fiber is a very important nutrient to help with our gastrointestinal tract. It helps us, obviously go to the bathroom. It could help with lowering cholesterol levels, but it could also help prevent certain kinds of cancers like colorectal cancer, right? So fiber is good. Fiber is a carb, right? So carbs are okay to eat, I promise. Another interesting fact about fiber is that it doesn't count towards our net carbs, right? So if you see something that has 7 grams of carbs, but it has, 3 grams of fiber, overall, you're really just getting 4 net grams of carbs. Make sense? Yeah? If I lose anybody, ask, please. Don't hesitate. So you can see on here 4 calories per gram, right? So 1 gram of carbohydrate is going to yield with it 4 calories. So if we have 10 grams of carbohydrates, 10 times 4, 40. So that's going to be 40 calories that we're getting from carbohydrates. Make sense? Yeah? Cool. Something important to note as well. Carbs make us fat, right? This is the idea that has been going around since always and forever. Carbs are bad for us and so on and so forth. No, carbs don't make us fat. Fat doesn't make us fat. Eating too much makes us fat, right? If we're not burning enough. If you ever notice that you gain a little bit of weight because you started incorporating more carbohydrates, but you're still lean, it's most likely just water retention, which is why I put this on here. 1 gram of carbohydrate is going to hold 3 grams of water stored in your glycogen. So remember that. Sodium can retain fluid. Carbohydrates also hold on to water as well. So the carbs didn't make you fat. If you got fat, it was because you were eating too much and you weren't burning enough of it off, and so on and so forth. And then over here I put the thermic effect of food is 10%. So that means roughly 10%, right? Remember, it's never black or white. The thermic effect of food is what your calorie burns as far as processing the food. So you'll burn about 10% of the calories from whatever carbohydrate you consume in order to digest and metabolize it. Make sense? Did I lose anybody? No? Cool. Protein, according to the IOM, 10 to 35%. Pretty big range. This is arguably the most important macronutrient for muscle mass, right? I say arguably because, somebody else might make an argument for carbs or fat. But really, we know that protein is responsible for helping with preventing muscle breakdown, with stimulating muscle protein synthesis, which is when you start to kind of build more muscle and help recuperate those muscles that you just trained. It's also important to note that there's no true definition for what's too much protein. We don't really know that, right? There was a study done years ago where they fed maybe a high amount of protein to certain patients in a study, and those individuals came back with kidney failure. But guess what? They had kidney failure to begin with. So that's kind of like you have a broken bone and you keep on breaking it. Like, how's it going to get better? If your kidneys are already damaged, like, they're not going to process things really well. Unfortunately, that study became like some kind of landmark thing, and now doctors, dietitians, you name it, have this great fear of protein because it's going to give you kidney damage. But it's not. Assuming you're already a healthy individual, you're drinking enough water, and so on and so forth. We don't know what too much protein is. A friend of Lisa's and myself as well, he's in charge of a study up in Nova Southeastern University, and they've done protein overfeeding studies, meaning people were getting at least 1 gram per pound of body weight. So if you weigh 180 pounds, you have to eat at least 180 grams of protein. Some people ate even more, twice that. So if you weigh 180, you had to eat 360, right? Guess what happened to the numbers? Nothing. CBC, all this stuff came back normal. Yes, sir. Okay. Okay. So if you're doing the 90 kilos would be, I don't know, roughly 190 pounds or so, more or less. So, but if you're going to eat 90 grams of protein, you're doing 1 gram per kilogram, right? So in this study, it was 2.2 grams per kilogram because 1 pound is 2.2 kilos. So now 1 gram per 198 would be your weight in pounds. So that would be 198 grams of protein if you were to do 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. The whole point of me going on that spiel is that nothing happened to the test subjects, right? They had a ridiculously high amount of protein consumption. Study was about a year long, and now they're going to have a follow-up of a 2-year, and nothing happened. Cholesterol and lipids were fine. Kidney function was fine. Everything was okay. Now, also take everything that I say with a grain of salt because everyone is different. So keep that in mind. We do studies, right? This is the fun part about nutrition, that there's no black or white answer, right? Everyone is a little bit different. Make sure you don't have any kidney issues and all of that. Did you have a question? Anything. Chicken, a bunch of whey. To get that much protein, you're going to have protein shakes. That's for sure. And as we know, protein is important for muscle repair, skin, nails, hair, cellular health, and all of that stuff. It's very important for our body to function properly. I always tell people, when in doubt, just have more protein. If anything, have a little bit more protein. Very similar to carbohydrates, protein per 1 gram is going to yield 4 calories, okay? The thermic effect of food, as far as protein is concerned, is a little bit higher than carbohydrates. It's actually higher than most of the nutrients that we're going to look at. So it's 30%. This means that your body's going to burn a little bit more energy in processing the protein than the carbohydrates, and you'll see the fat as well. Yes. Bless you. Uh-huh. Correct. Well, it depends on what the goals are. That's where having some kind of like a health professional guide you is important, but it depends on what the goals are. It really depends on goals, medical history. There's a lot that goes into it. So you can see, I'm glad you noticed that it's a wide range. Another fact that I didn't mention in the carbohydrates, fiber. Fiber is a carbohydrate, but it's almost like by itself. Also has a thermic effect of food at around 30%. Okay? Where carbs had around 10, some would say 5 to 8, but fiber in its own little category burns a little more. That's why when in doubt, protein and vegetables can't go wrong. Fat, important for cholesterol function, which is important for hormone function, right? Cholesterol is not all bad, but of course, too much cholesterol is. It's needed for fat-soluble vitamin absorption, so if you're taking vitamin D, which all of us probably should be taking it, depends on what your levels are, make sure you take your vitamin D with a source of fat. Olive oil, avocado, take it along with fish oil. It's going to help absorb the vitamin D. Omega-3s are a kind of fat. I'm a huge advocate for omega-3s as far as their anti-inflammatory benefits. They could also help out with high triglyceride levels. So as far as saturated fat, and I tried to be a little bit funny in that bullet point there where it says to all keto fangirls, because I know that once we get hooked on something, we're like obsessed with it. Saturated fat is necessary for us, right? We have different camps saying you shouldn't have saturated fat, you should have much less, or it's okay to have infinite amounts of saturated fat. We still need to consume saturated fat, but that saturated fat shouldn't make up more than 10% of what we're consuming, and that's being like kind of generous, right? So if you're overdoing the butter and the bacon, I would say slow it down a little bit. And as you can see, fat yields the most calories. 1 gram of fat yields 9 calories. And the thermic effect of food for fat is about 5%. Okay? And alcohol. Not good in excess, right? What's good in excess? Nothing. Nothing is good for us. If we're having too much of something, it's not going to be good for us. That goes with the saying, the poison is in the dosage, right? A little bit of protein isn't bad. Too much protein, which we don't know what it is not going to be good. A little bit of alcohol, it's not going to kill us, right? The interesting thing with alcohol is that it really is a toxin, right? It gets registered in our body as a toxin. So our body's trying to get rid of it as fast as it can. It can't do it very quickly, right? Our liver could only, get out like 10 grams of alcohol or so per hour. So it's not the fastest, but if you have a little bit of food in your system, it might help out. But with that being said, if you can see one of my last points on here, it says avoid overeating if ETOH is like a medical abbreviation for alcohol. So avoid overeating if alcohol is going to be consumed. So earlier in the day, if you know you're going to go out at night and have a few drinks, don't eat a lot during the day. Like eat an okay amount, but just don't overdo it. Because what also happens is it kind of shuts down your metabolism. So if you've overconsumed during the day, and if you ate a lot of fat, particularly fat, during the day, and then you drink a lot, your body's going to store that fat much easier. All right? I put a little note, wine and spirits are your best go-to. So red wine is okay. And you can see that the thermic effect of food, of alcohol, is about 20%, right? That's mostly because your body's kind of like, I want to get rid of this. I got to get this out of my system. You probably can't see this too well, but if you guys want to like take a picture, or I could probably send you like a PDF of the PowerPoint. This just kind of breaks down the serving size in fluid ounces of what's being consumed and how many calories it yields, right? Yes? Yeah. Are you really going to drink 1 glass of red wine? So, but yeah, it's okay. 1 glass of red wine, it's like 3 grams of carbs, like nothing crazy. And then obviously the rest is alcohol. But there's a little caveat to that, because if we wanted to get these amazing benefits from red wine, like the resveratrol or whatever is the next God-sent, nutrient from wine, we'd probably have to consume a boatload of it, right? But having a little goes a long way. But most people don't just have 1 glass. And 1 glass is 5 ounces, right? It's not like, a glass. Yeah, it's not a bowl. So this shows you the caloric yield for different alcohols. So understanding metabolism, right? Yes, sir.
Hello.
The thermic effect of food on it? What about it?
Have they quantified it?
What do you mean?
How much alcohol, what the effect is on the metabolism, depending on the amount
Like how many calories you burn to process it?
the damping effect of your metabolism based on the amount of alcohol you drink.
If it slows down your metabolism?
Slowing, have they quantified that number?
I'm trying to really understand your question.
You said the alcohol slows the metabolism.
Yeah.
Have they quantified the amount of alcohol they take?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I hate to give you that non-sexy answer, but I know that it's kind of like it'll slow down digestion overall to try to get rid of the metabolism, right? So it's like if you did eat a big meal with it, that digestion process it's not fully going to stop, but it's going to slow down almost to a complete halt, where your body's like, okay, I got to get rid of this alcohol. Now, the speed at which that happens, I'm not really sure. I can, if you want, email me, and I can do some research, and I'll be happy to get back to you if I find anything on that. That kind of transitions us to understanding metabolism. Who thinks they have a good metabolism in here? Raise your hand, right? Who thinks they have a bad metabolism? Who thinks, they just don't have a metabolism? So it's important to understand your metabolism never stops functioning, right? It's the way that we get our energy. Metabolism, if I were to use one word for it, for people to understand what it is, I would just say it's energy. We consume something, we break it down, our metabolism kind of like absorbs everything, we have those nutrients, and boom, there we go. I put a few acronyms up here so you guys can understand where our calorie burning comes from. BMR is our basal metabolic rate. I put on here as a little note, there's not much that we can do about our basal metabolic rate, because that's just how our body functions. Our body burns X amount of calories to keep us alive. When we breathe, when we go to the bathroom, when we talk, whatever it is, our body's burning some type of calorie to keep us functioning. NEAT is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. That's calorie burning by me being up here talking. I'm not exercising, but I'm moving a little bit more than if I were to just be completely sedentary, right? Non-exercise activity. Exercise activity thermogenesis, when we exercise, we burn some calories. Unfortunately, some of us use that as an excuse to over-consume foods. Exercise is not like it's not our scapegoat to eat whatever we want. Like, in a way, yes, because it gives us like some room. Hey, I burned a little extra calories, so maybe I can afford to have this, but not really. Because whatever we do as far as exercise is concerned, obviously, depends on what you did for exercise, the person, and so on and so forth. It's only going to be about 10-ish% of your daily caloric burning, right? The thermic effect of food, this is about another, 10 to 15% of what our body's going to be burning in a day. And then we have the total daily energy expenditure. That is how much we burn in an entire day, taking everything into account. Exercise, BMR, NEAT, everything. This is going to be the higher number out of all of these, because this kind of includes everything. That all make sense? Yeah? Calories in, and you see I put here, it says we greatly control. we are in control of what we're eating. No one is forcing you to eat anything. You make the decision to consume something. Now, we all have different upbringings. Some of us were told, eat everything on your plate as a kid, and we still do it when we're 78 years old because, you know, los niños en Cuba or the kids in Africa, whatever it is. But we greatly control calories coming in. Versus calories going out, we partially control that. Exercise, non-exercise activity, that's kind of it. Because our BMR, again, we can't really do much about that. So, energy balance, right? This is really how fat loss works. Again, the whole calories in versus calories out. We lose fat only by being in a caloric deficit, right? Eating more fat isn't necessarily going to make us lose more fat. Physiologically speaking, you're going to burn more fat because you're eating more fat, right? So it's natural that that happens. But if we're not in a caloric deficit, we're not going to lose fat. Because if you're in a caloric surplus, you're going to store it. That just means that we have to burn more than what we consume. So if you should be eating 2,000 calories, maybe you should try cutting it by 200, 300, 500, depends on the person, right? But cut it by a little bit and slowly go losing weight. The problem is, who wants to do it slowly, right? Be patient. If you're not losing inches, weight, fat, you're not in a caloric deficit. Now, take that with a grain of salt because it's not from one day to the next. You can see the last bullet point. It says fat loss is not linear. It's not day to day. If you're going to lose weight, it's going to look something like this. All right, cool, I'm losing. Oh, man, oh, dang, I went up a little bit. Oh, I'm still at the same weight. Oh, okay, I'm losing again. All right, good. Cruising. Oh, wait, I went up. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. Oh, I'm plateauing again. I'm still plateauing. Oh, no, this isn't making sense. I went up a half a pound. A half a pound isn't a lot. And then, oh, wait, I lost 5 pounds. Like, it's not linear. It doesn't go like this, right? But it's like a mind F word, you know? It's tough. Who's going to be patient enough to make it through the plateaus and whatnot? As I mentioned earlier, we don't live and die by the scale. A fun fact that I wanted you guys to learn, if you didn't already know, when we lose fat, it's kind of like, where does it go? A lot of it is actually released, like these fat molecules, in our carbon dioxide in our breath, which is pretty interesting. It gets broken down, and then we breathe out a lot of it. So that was a little fun fact. Why do diets work, but not really? Because any diet can work. Diet. It's going to put you in a caloric deficit, right? Burn more than you consume. The key is always eat less carbs, eat less fat, fasting, juicing, eat soup, the cabbage soup diet, or, you know, whatever it is. All of these things, if done, I guess, properly, you can say, they're going to get you to a caloric deficit. And that is exactly how they get you to lose fat. You get into a caloric deficit. You can see the last bullet point there that I put says sustainability is key. Who's heard of metabolic adaptation before? So maybe just like a couple of us. Metabolic adaptation is when your metabolism adjusts for weight loss, right? So on here, it's the adaptation of the metabolism to your new body weight, typically a decrease in your BMR, in your basal metabolic rate, okay? You can see some metabolic adaptation from yo-yo dieting, the extreme weight loss, and then that extreme weight loss typically tends to keeping that weight off for a brief period of time, and then a relatively quick increase in weight. It might not make sense at first, but when you think about it, it does. Someone who's obese, or just someone who's heavier, is going to have a higher BMR than someone who is not, than someone who's at a much lighter weight. But if you think about it, it makes sense. Much more for them to carry around, much more for them to burn just to sustain. So it makes sense. But of course, you're going to see some kind of metabolic adaptation. If your BMR at 250 pounds is 2,500 calories, and now you come down to 205 pounds, you're going to notice a decrease in your BMR, maybe down to like 1,900 calories. I'm just making up numbers right now, right? But there is a metabolic adaptation. Studies show that if you're not doing something that's sustainable, you're likely to regain the weight. That's where the crash diets don't really help. Although there's a little caveat, the speed at which you lose weight almost doesn't really matter. It can be slow, it can be fast. What matters is what are you doing after you lose the weight to keep that off and to keep on losing the weight. That's really important. Because what happens a lot of times is that we might go on a lot of the yo-yos, on the crashes, the roller coaster, our weight does this kind of thing. Over time, this could lead to some kind of adaptation where our body is kind of like, okay, I remember what happened last time. Maybe I'll hold on to a little bit more the next time that I gain the weight kind of thing. As a matter of fact, there's someone that I've known for a few years, and I'm working closely with them now, kind of like a case study. This is someone who has been on some type of a diet for almost their entire life. They're 50-something years old right now, and they've been on some form of severe caloric restriction, and then excess, and then restriction, since they were 18, right? So now, obviously, you're going to see weight fluctuations, you're going to see metabolic fluctuations, but from 18 to 50, whatever, and like 6 or 7, 8, I don't know how many of those years was some variation of the South Beach diet or Atkins, I forget which one it was. So there's obviously something going on there where you're doing something drastic to lose weight, then you're doing something else, going back to whatever you're normally doing, and you're gaining the weight again. So going through this roller coaster, your metabolism is like, what the heck, what are you doing to me kind of thing. So over the years, it's going to make it harder and harder and harder to get that weight to come off. So now she is struggling with getting the weight to come off. And I mean, surprisingly or not surprisingly, she's at the heaviest that she's been. This is what she says. So it's kind of like, it sucks, right? But you got to be patient to make it through that period that sucks to get to the promised land, right? At the end of the day, quit being in a rush. You know, trust the process, be patient, stay consistent with what you're doing, right? Any diet can promise to do something amazing, but really it comes down to what am I willing to do day in and day out, day in and day out. Oreos aren't terrible, pizza is not bad, broccoli is not the best thing that you could eat. Like, food is food. It's not good, it's not bad. Just in how much, like in what amounts are we eating it, right? Thank you guys for your time.